Now for the HTML part, I have already created the 3 files inside the Visual Studio Code, which is index.html, style.css and script.js file. So I have already linked the style file with the use of this link tag and also the script file with this particular line of the code. Now the first step is we need to actually wrap the entire code inside the container. If I show you the final version of the application, so this is the final version of the application that we want to develop, and this will be the application that we're going to develop in this entire module. So I have launched the application inside the Chrome browser with this live server extension. So our first step is we need to start the container and then we need to place these form elements. So we are going to use the form, a different approach than the previous project. So coming back to the index.html, so the first thing is we need to specify the container. So I'm going to use here a container, which is a emit plugin, which gives us the division code. Inside of the container, I will be using the h2 element and then I will be here specifying the heading to the BMI calculator. Alright, so this will be the heading for the BMI calculator, which is a h2. So if I come back to this one, which is the project that we will develop in this entire module, now you can see h2 element BMI calculator is actually visible to the browser. After that, we need to add here a form element. Now we don't need any action because we are not using any backend server here. So then we need to specify the ID. So ID is going to like BMI form. Then we need to specify the some spaces. Inside of the form, we need to place all of these elements, which is this particular selection, or I can say that the label. Then this is actually a selection. Inside of that, we need to add these options, which will act as a drop down, but it is not a drop down, it is actually an option inside the selection input element of the HTML. Then we need to specify the label again, then with this input type, which is the number, because we are dealing with the numbers. So coming back to this one, which is a project that we want to develop in this entire module, and then coming back to the index.html. So the first thing is we need to add the label. So the label here, inside of that we need to specify the for value to gender, and then we need to here specify the text to the label, which is gender. And after that we need to use here a select, and then we need to here remove the name one because we don't want to use the name. Inside of that we need to specify the ID, which is going to be gender, and then the main thing that we want to actually specify inside this select tag, which is the option elements. And also we need to actually add here a required attribute, because without that we actually don't want to calculate the BMI. Then we need to add here a option. The first option is actually for the male, so here we need to add the value to male, and then the text to that particular option will be male. Then I'm going to duplicate it by pressing the shift, alt and down arrow key. Then it's actually create a duplicate for the first line. Then here I will be adding the female, and then also I'm changing the value to female. Alright, so now the selection is actually completed, which is the first element. You can see now this selection is actually appeared inside the web browser. After that we need to actually start the creation of this age element. So coming back to the BMI one, and then here coming back to the index.html. Then I'm pressing a one enter, and then I enter here a label. So for that we need to use the age, and then we need to specify the label value to age. And after that we need to add here a input. Then the input type is going to be number, because we are actually working with the numeric values. So that is the reason we need to specify here a numeric value, which is the input type number. Then I have specified here a ID, which is age, because later on we want to fetch these IDs inside the JavaScript file. We want to actually bind these IDs to the JavaScript variable so that we can provide some logic to these input elements. And after that we need to add the placeholder attribute. Inside of that we need to provide the enter age, and then this is also required, because without this we actually don't want to calculate the values. Alright, then we need to provide the another label, not a label, it is not a label, it's actually a label. And then for this one it is actually for the height. This is for the height, and I can enter here a like height feet, because it is having two values, because here we need to specify the two input type. Then the value for the label. Okay, and then we need to actually press the enter key to come back to the next line. So first we need to specify here another input, and then the type is going to be number. Then here we need to specify the ID. So it is like ID, which is going to be height feet, and we need to provide here a placeholder. So the placeholder is going to be like feet, the placeholder that will be visible to the UI element. If I just refresh it, this is a placeholder that is we specified here. And then this is also going to be required, not read only, it is going to be required. And after that I'm going to just simply create a duplicate of this one to save a little bit of the time. Then instead of height feet, we are now going to here use the height in inches. Height inches. The input type is going to be number. Then only changes with the ID name, and also we need to here change the placeholder to inches. Alright, so that's for the height one of the inputs. Now the next we need actually a weight. So this weight is coming back to the index.html again. So here I will be typing the label. Then 4 is actually going to be value for the weight. Then we want to display the label, which is like weight. Make sure the first character is a capital one so that it looks good. And then we need to specify the input type. So input, and input is going to be number because we are dealing with the numeric values. Then it is actually going to be required. And then we need to specify the ID. So ID is going to be like again I need to specify here ID, and ID is like our weight. Alright, and then we need to specify the placeholder. So placeholder is going to be like enter weight in kgs. Alright, so this will be the placeholder for this input element. Okay, so this will be the input. If I zoom out a little bit so that you can see the code more clearly. Alright, so that marks the completion of the all input elements for this form elements. The next element that we need is the button. So we need to specify this button also. So here we need to specify the input, and then at this point of time we will be using the input type submit, and this value is actually going to be like calculate. The value that is this one, the text will be visible to the button. So if I enter here a calculate BMI, and if I control save it, then you can see all the input element is now visible to the browser. Now all of them are actually coming to the single line. That is because the input, we can tell it because their display is actually like inline, all of them. So we need to actually set these input type in a column like structure, where that we will do in the CSS part of the project of this BMI calculator. Now the last element that we want is actually to get the result. If I enter here a value like I enter here values like 56, so this is actually a result element. So after the end of the form element, we want to display the result. So make sure you are outside of the form element, and then here we need to create the another division. So this is actually for the result. So we need to specify the ID, and this is going to be the result. So now you can see the result is not going to be visible. So if I enter here like then it is going to be visible here, but we don't want to display it because at the initial we want to display the form look like this. So when we click on the button, then we want to display the result. So that marks the completion of the code for the HTML part of the BMI calculator project. In the next part, we are going to start with the CSS part of the BMI calculator.